Now, Nigeria's annual inflation rate has risen to 29.90% in January from 28.92% in December 2023, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The Statistics Office said that the January 2024 headline inflation rate shows an increase of 0.98 percent points when compared to the December 2023 figures. The NBS said on a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate hit 8.08 percent points higher compared to the rate recorded in January 2023, which stood at 21.82%. This morning, joining us to further look into this, Dr. Muda Yusuf, CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises. Dr. Yusuf, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so let's quickly go straight into it. Looking at the new figures, what primary factors have you seen that actually led to Nigeria's rising inflation rate, particularly the significant increase year on year from January 2023 to January 2024?
Well, the key drivers of inflation have not changed over the last couple of months. The biggest one, of course, is the exchange rate, because there is a very strong correlation between the exchange rate depreciation and the rate of inflation. Each time we have a depreciation in the currency, it always reflects almost instantaneously on the cost of goods and services in the economy. So the biggest driver of inflation for now is the exchange rate situation. The second major driver, which is also related in a way to the foreign exchange situation, is the energy cost. Each time we have issues with the exchange rate, it reflects immediately on the cost of energy, particularly that component of our energy mix that have been deregulated. I'm talking now about the cost of diesel, the cost of aviation fuel, the cost of gas, the cost of kerosene. Those ones are increasing almost, at a very rapid rate. And just as you said in your earlier reports, this cost of diesel affects the cost of transportation. And the cost of transportation is also a major factor in inflation, because all the trucks that are moving goods around the country, whether you are talking of building materials or you are talking about food products, you are talking about raw materials, whatever it is, most of these trucks, 90% of them are running on diesel. Diesel has now gone up as high as 1,300 naira per liter. So these things reflect on the cost of goods and services. And of course, we have the perennial problem of insecurity, which is affecting the supply of food products. That problem is still very much there. And each time there is, challenges around the supply of food, just as we are having presently, it also reflects on food prices. That is why food inflation is even the biggest component of the headline inflation, currently at 35%, which is very high and which is creating all manner of social tension. Then there's also the relativity of the currency vis-a-vis the CFA. All the countries around us are spending CFA. Now, when you relate the strength of the CFA to the Naira has been weakening progressively against the CFA, which means that all our neighboring countries find it much easier and cheaper to come into our country and buy up all manner of things. So there's also a demand pressure coming from our neighboring countries, particularly on food products. So these are some of the factors that have been driving inflation.
So that would mean that the way we say it, it's like the fiscal and monetary policies of government are not having any positive or meaningful impact on the dynamics of inflation in the country. So why is that?
No, it's not that they are not having any meaningful impact. The issue is that the macroeconomic fundamentals are weak. And that is reflecting the capacity to fund the foreign exchange market. It's affecting our capacity to earn foreign exchange. And when you don't have that capacity, then of course it reflects in inflation, particularly in our exchange rate. Now, the CBN has been trying its best to stabilize the rate. The CBN has been doing a lot to clear the backlog and to float the currency and all of that. The fiscal authorities are also trying to improve on revenue generation so that they can reduce the amount of fiscal deficit. Because in all of this, there is also the macroeconomic management component of inflation. The higher the fiscal deficit, the higher the inflationary pressure. The higher the waste and means finances, which is CBN funding of government operations, the higher the inflationary pressure. You know, as some people regard, even refer to that as money printing. So those things are the things that the fiscal and monetary authorities are doing. But because the problems are much deeper and they are sometimes even structural.
I think we just lost connection with Dr. Muda Yusuf right there while it was talking about the untoward. Okay, yes, Dr. Muda Yusuf, yes, you were actually talking about the relationship between what obtains as regards the rise in inflation and the different policies, both on the monetary and fiscal sides, being rolled out by governments. I'd like you to conclude on that before we move to probably some adjustments that can be made.
Well, what
I think we're having a bit of a scramble there in the network, and it would be nice to have him, conclude on what he has to say. But